Now, we're going to talk a little bit about the skill of inferencing. This is something that we are going to do throughout this story. It is something you already know how to do. It is something that humans do naturally. Anybody know what it means to make an inference or draw an inference?
To assume something based on what's already happened.
Okay, so to assume something based on what's already happened is what Macy said. So let's so you're going to take the information that you've been given, right? Plus something else. Anybody know? What? Yeah, or things that you already know, right? Your own experience, your own background. So you take the details from the story plus your own experience, and then you draw a conclusion. That's what an inference is. So everybody in your notebook underneath where we did direct characterization and indirect characterization, I believe it was under elements of a short story. If you will write this definition for inferencing down, details from story plus, huh?
Do we need this?
Nope. Plus personal knowledge equals draw and inference, which is another way of saying conclusion, right? That's what an inference is, okay? Everybody got it? Okie dokie, Smokey. So these are the three things we're going to focus on. We're going to focus on direct characterization, indirect characterization, and drawing inferences. Those are the three things we're going to highlight. All right. So did you have to draw inferences to tell what grandmother was like based on the picture? Yeah, absolutely. You had pictures of her. You had a picture of her. You took kind of things that you know, and you had to draw an inference. Okay? All right. So we are going to look at these questions as we go along. I'm going to ask you to read some of this today. So I need to know that you are following along. Cameron, the questions that we are going to work on today, and you can do it as we go along, are going to be in your literature section. I have already distributed them. So if you go to your literature section, I'm going to pull up mine, but a visit to grandmother questions, these are the ones we're going to be working on, and they're already there. Okay. These are going to be due on Wednesday. If you follow along in the class, you should automatically be able to, you won't have any homework. Okay, so obviously this story is going to involve conflict. What kinds of conflict exist when a character has conflict? There are two different kinds that they can have. Internal or external, and sometimes they're both. Do y'all agree? So obviously the way we deal with conflict in our relationships will depend on the success or the failure of that relationship. Do y'all agree? Okay. You can have a relationship going along and some conflict comes up, and depending on how you handle it, that friendship, that relationship may end kaput. We're done with each other, right? Or you also could deal with the conflict, get that thing out between the two of you, and then maybe it heals your relationship, and then you move forward, okay? So we're going to deal with characters in this story that have conflict with one another, okay? And that conflict's going to cause them their own conflicts. So let's meet them, and then let's see how all this happens, okay? On page 240, is it 242, 243? 243. All right, so Mario, read that first two paragraphs for us. Shig, like Chicago, is his name.
Shig knew something was wrong the instant his father kissed her. He had always known his father to be relentless of a man so kind that when people ventured into his office, it took only a few words from him to make them relax and even laugh. Dr. Charles Dunford cared about people, but when he had bent to kiss the old lady's black face, something new and almost ugly had to come into his eyes. Fear, uncertainty, sadness, and perhaps even hatred.
Okay, So all of a sudden, we learn a whole lot. Tell me, what did you just describe for me Shig's father, Dr. Charles Dunford? Somebody describe for me what, Macy, go, ooh, everybody should have their book open to page 242, 243. Nolan, open your book. Macy, go get one. They're back there. Good grief. Y'all. Yes. Okay, go for it, Samari. Samari's gonna tell us, but then I'm gonna call on somebody else. If I call on you and you can't answer and you don't know where you are, I'm going to create a class participation for today and give you a 0. You understand? You have to follow along. This is not optional. You need to be in the book and in the story. All right, go, Samaria. That should be a given, y'all. I should not have to tell you. When I stand up here and I say, get on page 243, I should not then, after 2 paragraphs have been read, look around and see that people do not have books and are not on the page. That is unacceptable. And if you want to do that, stay home. That's what home is for. Okay? All right, go ahead, Samaria.
His father's just kind and made people relax around him. He's like kind of laid back and like open-minded.
Yes, very good. Okay, so based on what Samaria just read, Nolan, is that a direct or an indirect characterization? It is a direct. It is the narrator telling you exactly how his father is. Very good. Okay. All right, read the next 2 paragraphs for me. Macy, read 10 days before. Uh-oh. All right, go ahead, Austin. Read 10 days before on page 243.
10 days before New York, Shig's father had decided suddenly he wanted to go to Nashville to attend his college class reunion, 20 years out. Both Shig's brother and sister, Peter and Connie, were packing for camp, and besides were too young for such an affair. But Shig was 17 and had nothing to do that summer, and his father asked if he would like to go along. His father had given them additional reasons. All my running buddies got their diplomas and were snapped up. The grammar.
Okay, this is dialect. This is an example of dialect. So he's talking, right? So he's talking like the way he talks. So that's kind of why you notice that. Go ahead. All my running buddies got their diplomas.
Were snapped up by them crafty young gals and had kids within a year. Now all those kids, some of them gals their age.
Yeah, go on and finish that page.
The reunion had lasted a week. As they packed for home, his father, in a far too offhand way, had suggested they visit Shig's grandmother. We this close, we might as well drop in on her and my brothers.
Okay, what kind of plot structure are you experiencing here? No. What kind of plot structure did you just experience? Read the first line of that paragraph that Austin started, Peter, on page 243. What does it say? Third paragraph, read that line. Yeah.
10 days before New York.
All right. What does that tell you? What are we just seeing in the plot right there? A flashback. So he's here, Shig is with his grandmother. He sees his dad kiss his grandmother, and he explains something weird happens between my dad and the grandmother in that kiss, and then it flashbacks. 10 days before, they had been in New York, and he had asked him to go on this trip, right? And then we're going to flash back forward. They went to the reunion, and now the reunion's over, and now the dad is saying, let's make a side trip to go see grandma, okay? So do you see how it was future, then past, and then, I mean, he went back and forth. There was a lot of flashback in there. What changed about the dad's demeanor when he kissed the grandmother that Shig observed? Anybody see that? Right? Say, anybody else want to add into that? fear, uncertainty, sadness, and perhaps even hatred. So what is that an example of? What do you think about the relationship between Charles, Shig's dad, and his mother? What's it like? Not very good. Very good. So is that foreshadowing to us that there might be a conflict to come, right? Okay, so that's a literary device, foreshadowing. Okay, all right, turn to the next page. Let's look on top of page 244 and let's read together. Kyle, read me those first two paragraphs on page 244.
His father had never thought much about his family with the exception of his brother, Gio, who seemed part convert and part practical joker, and part Don Juan. He had spoken of Gio with a kind of indulgence he would have shown a cute but ill-behaved and potentially dangerous 5-year-old.
Okay. All right. So let's look at what he says about GL, right? So he said he was part Don Juan, and you have like a footnote there at the bottom. It tells you that Don Juan is a legendary nobleman, idle and immoral, who was fascinated with women. And so that's kind of what Shig draws about how his father had described GL. So look at question number 1. It says, what characterization do you get of GL on page 244? And is this direct or indirect? What do you think? It's direct because Shig is the narrator and Shig is saying, here is what my dad said, right? So he's not observing GL, right? He's telling you this is what my dad said. This is who this guy is. So I would say that is direct. So everybody answer those two questions. What characterization do you get of GL? Y'all describe him. And then answer, is it direct or indirect? Okay, so y'all, these are the kinds of skills that the reason why we're doing this together is because these are the kind of skills that I want you to be able to do on your own. So make sure that you're like processing this and know how to do this. All right. Indulgence is one of your vocabulary words. It was in that paragraph, and indulgence means leniency, right? Readiness to tolerate or forgive bad behavior. So this is kind of how he talked about Shig. Read the next two paragraphs for me, Gretchen.
At the door by Aunt Rose, Gio's wife, and ushered into the living room. The old lady had looked up from her seat hiding in the Aunt Rose stood between the visitors.
No, let's stop right there. Okay, we get kind of a clue from this situation about why Charles left home, about what the setting is time-wise. Anybody have any idea about what time would Charles have left? I mean, like what time, what years do you think this is happening? Okay, so it's pre-desegregation, right? So it's got to be before the 1960s. We're gonna get more clues that it's probably even earlier than that. Okay, so that kind of gives us a little bit of an idea. All right, so why did Charles's father, what reasons did Charles's father give for leaving home at age 15? This is question number 3. Right, so he left because he wanted to go to school, right? Now, based on what you know already about their relationship between the foreshadowing you've seen, can you guess any other reasons he might have had for leaving home when he was 15? Maybe an argument. Yep. Anybody other thoughts about why maybe he left? Raise your hand if you think he left solely because of education. Okay, good. Okay, all right. Reforming now. Let's go, Ella. Read for me the next two paragraphs. Yes. Okay, really quickly. This is question number 5? Nope. Nope, this is number 2. What characterization did you get of grandmother on page 244? And is this direct or indirect? What do you think? You think so? All right, so this is really awesome, an awesome story to help you determine the difference between direct and indirect. If you look at what Shig says, and Shig's the narrator, so she said she looked like a doll made of black straw, the wrinkles in her face running in one direction like the head of a broom. Her hair was white and coarse and grew out straight from her head, okay? So is that direct? Is that the narrator saying this is what she was looked like, or is that indirect? Are you observing her? It's direct. It is. It is direct. You could, yes. So you could draw an inference there. Yes, absolutely. And then that would be what? That would be indirect. Yeah, yep. Okay. Who knows what this is when they say her hair was white and coarse and it grew out of her hair? Let's see. Her eyes were brown. The whites too. Nope, that's not where. Oh, she looked like a doll. What is that? It's a literary device. Anybody know what we call that? It's a simile. It's a comparison using like or as. And then it goes on to say, made of black straw, the wrinkles in her face running in one direction, like the head of a broom. What is that? It's another simile, right? So anytime you have a comparison of two things using like or as, then you have the literary device, a simile, which we haven't defined yet, but I'll go ahead and point it out to you. Got it? Okay. Let's keep moving. The next two paragraphs. So Charles has shown up with Shig, and the mom, she does say that it can't possibly be him. So we kind of get a little bit more information about the relationship between Charles and the mom. Has it been a while since they've seen each other? Yeah, she said, I don't even ever hear from him. All right. So let's see. Austin, you've already read, haven't you? Kaylee, read for me the next two paragraphs. Where are we? The old lady stared up at them. See that in the middle of page 244? You see where we are? The old lady stared up at them. Charles? Here. Handkerchief. God have mercy, Charles. She put her arms up to his feet. That was when Okay, so who grimaces when he gets a hug? Who is it that grimaces? Not Chig, Charles, the father, right. And that word grimace is one of your vocabulary words that you defined on Friday. So it means like, have you ever done that? Like, oh, Hampton does that anytime. Hampton does not want to be kissed. And anytime I go in to kiss him, don't kiss my grandma or his grandmother. Don't kiss him. Grimace. He's a great example of grimacing. So that's what's happening. All right. How are you, son? She asks. Read that the last paragraph, and then through the bracketed part on the next page, Eric, if you will. So the bottom where it said Shig could not hear his father's answer, then all the way through the line on page 245.
Shig could not hear his father's answer. She let him go and fell back into her chair, grabbing the arms. Her hands were as dark as the wood, and it seemed to become part of it. Now, who that standing there? Who that man? That's one of your grandsons, Mama. His father's voice cracked. Charles Benford, Jr. You saw him when he was a baby in Chicago. He's grown now.
Keep going, all through that bracketed part.
I can see that boy. He looked at Shig squarely. Come here, son, and kiss me once. He did. What they call you, Charles too? No, ma'am, they call me Shig. She smiled. She had all her teeth, but they were too perfect to be her. That's good. Can't have two boys to answer to Charles in the same house. Won't nobody at all come. So, you, that little boy, you don't remember it, do you? I used to take you to church in Chicago and you'd get up and hop into the music. You're studying to be a preacher. Keep on going?
Yeah, keep on going until the end of that line. That's down the margin.
No, ma'am, I don't think so. I might be a lawyer. You'll be an honest one, won't you? I'll try. Trying ain't enough. You be honest here. Promise me. You be honest like your daddy.
Okay. All right. So she meets the grandson again. How long? This is about how long has it been since Shig saw his grandmother? This is question number 5. You got to pay attention to figure this out. So how old is Shig now? Not 15. What'd you say, Kylie? Look back on the first page. 17. So it's probably been since he's a baby. So about how long do you think it's been since Shig has seen his grandmother? Yeah, maybe 16-ish years. About how long? All right, name one trait one trait of the grandmother that is suggested through the dialogue on page 45. So the dialogue he just had with Shig, what would you, give me a character trait of the grandmother? Reading that dialogue. Honest, okay. Who else? What do you think? Kylie, what do you think that a character trait of that grandmother through that dialogue she had with her grandson? She kind of seems stern. What do you think, Peter? Huh? She remembers stuff. Okay. Do you think she's kind of pushy, overbearing? You come here, give me a kiss, right? You gonna be a preacher? No, you be honest. Trying, I'll try. Trying's not enough. What do you think? What do you get? What sense do you get from her personality? Would you say she's somewhat abrasive, forceful? What would you say? You think? Assertive. Ooh, I like assertive. Would that be a direct characterization or an indirect characterization? Indirect, very good. Anything you learn about a character through dialogue is always indirect, okay? All right. Kelvon, will you read for me next? We are on page 245 and we just finished. Try Trying ain't enough. You be honest, you hear? Promise me, you be honest, like your daddy. And then, all right, I promise.
Well, then where's him? You call up those boys and get them over here now. You got enough to eat. Let me go see. She started to get up. She reached out to them. She shook them off. What they tell you about me, shit. They tell you I'm all they love. Don't believe it. They don't know nothing about old ladies. When I want help, I'll let you know. Only time I need help getting anywhere is when I die. And they lift me into the ground.
All right, so you get more dialogue there, and you learn a lot more about her. So she's saying, where's that Hiram? You call up those boys, let them get over here now. You got enough to eat? Let me go see. And then Shig tries to help her, and she's like, don't you try to help me. These boys don't know nothing about old ladies. All right, so do you think assertive is still a good character trait for her? Anybody want to add anything else for a character trait for this grandmother? Pushy. Pushy's a great character trait for her. Yeah, I like it. Okay, so number 6, name one trait. We already did that. Number 7, what character trait does grandmother reveal about the father in the dialogue with Shig? He's honest. Okay, remember he said, you be honest like your dad, right? And she revealed that to us. That author revealed that about Charles through dialogue. That's an indirect characterization. Got it? All right. At the bottom of page 245, I'm going to read the rest for today. She was standing now, her back and shoulders straight. She came only to Shig's chest. She squinted up at him. You eat much. Your daddy ate like 2 men. Yes, ma'am. That's good. That means you ain't nervous. Your mama, she ain't nervous. I remember that. In Chicago, she'd sit down by the window all afternoon and never say nothing. Just knit. She smiled. Let me see what we got to eat. Okay? All right, so what character trait does grandmother reveal about Shig's mother in her dialogue with Shig? What was it? She was not nervous. Very good. All right, so do y'all notice that dialect, the way that the author is portraying, is writing like the way that they spoke? That's called dialect. And that's a characterization tool. All right, be sure to put this up tonight for homework. Work on your outline. If you have not done your handmade book, terms A, B, and C, you need to complete that. Oh, everybody pause. I have one other thing to tell you. Hang on, everybody freeze. Your journal topics, I put that up there and I forgot to tell you, your journal topics are now 100 points each. So for 2 weeks. So they're 10 points an entry, 100 points. So it will essentially be like a test grade for class participation. All right. Have a good day.
Freeze.
I did not pick up, hang on, I'll get it.
I didn't miss.
I'm in the head with that.
Miss Brothers,
Yeah.
What I make on my dead notebook?
I'm gonna hand it back in just a minute.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
I
hang
have
on.
my research cards.
Good.
And give them to you.
Yes.